Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to Sunday's podcast. The topic that basically is going to be talked about today is pretty much on GLP-1s and weight loss drugs. And also the commercials in reference to them. Growing up, I never really saw drug commercials unless they were allergy drug commercials, like Claritin Clear, the ones for red eyes that would provide relief from them. The closest thing to even a drug that I remember seeing was like Prilosec for heartburn. But in these day and ages, we basically see drug commercials for pretty much everything that's out there underneath the sun. Whether it be Wegovy, Ozempic, um, or whatever it is that's out there, especially if it deals with diabetes. But the one thing that I have got to say though, the market, they do drive heavily on these commercials. We are one of the few countries in the world that actually does allow advertising on TV by these commercial companies. In this great capitalist country of ours, it can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on who you ask. Medical professionals, for instance, they won't just prescribe somebody these GLP-1s like Wegovy or Ozempic. Many of them won't even prescribe um, Jardiance, for example, when dealing with diabetes, because especially if it comes through a commercial that's been seen. And do we really need these drugs? Probably not, but it does not help to look into it. However, it does help the mind when you're curious to actually know what you actually want to invest your time into looking into. Just like I'm not saying it's bad or good and all, but what I am saying though is that we shouldn't be so reliant on these drug commercials. We shouldn't be so reliant on thinking that we need something just because it's shown on television in the form of a commercial. But yeah, a lot of these drug companies only got one thing on their mind, and that's making money instead of actually caring for the customer, the patient. And why? Because the whole healthcare industry, it's a business. It is a $1 trillion business. Well, yes, the government should be involved in healthcare, but at the same time, they should keep out of healthcare at the very same time. It's a 50-50 split on that view of mine, just like many other people as well. Yes, healthcare is a fundamental human right that we all need. However, there's also elective surgeries out there that a lot of people just don't need, but they'll pay money for. When it comes to medical practices, I've actually done my research quite extensively, I may add, towards weight loss like surgeries. For the gastro bypass one, doctors won't even touch you if you are 430 pounds or heavier. They won't even consider you for it. Not even dietitians would recommend that. That pretty much is because they're claiming liability. And speaking of liability on these health insurance companies and healthcare centers, or should I say medical facilities, They would rather not take the risk than it actually happening. December of 2022, I had a very bad experience when inside of a ER. They would rather listen to their own ego than they would listen to the solid facts that I basically was presented with to them. This doctor that I had, I'm just going to call him Dr. Jackass because I don't want to be in any sort of trouble if I was to use his actual name. Okay, well, Dr. Jackass, he barely does an assessment on me. He writes me medications for what I don't even need without even consulting the health chart or the health history that I have. He should have known better not to prescribe me lisinopril. Why not lisinopril, you may be asking? Simple. That drug, it is absolutely not supposed to be prescribed to anybody with respiratory issues along with heart issues. Because the side effects majorly actually can contribute to shortness of breath. And I mean, not just regular shortness of breath like you would see from people like my size or from cigarette smokers where they are so out of breath they almost sound like that they are a steam engine puffing for air. But no, this type of breathing where more than likely you would actually need to have an oxygen tank on your person. Like the tubes right up your nose, hauling a tank or two with you. But the whole medical industry, they'd pretty much just rather follow their own best interests because the common saying is, a patient cured is a customer loss. Which is another reason why, in a way, government should have some involvement in the industry for healthcare, but at the same time, they should also keep their butts out of it. Because government overreach and overregulation pretty much has gone too far in this country. And I'm trying not to make this as political as I can, but basically, this is McNiel's unfiltered perspective. Where pretty much anything, if you really think deep down into it, anything can be labeled as politics. Anything can technically be considered political if you think just right. And if you think so hard on it. There is so many over-the-counter drugs that are used for weight loss, but they are given the term supplements in order to be labeled as that, so that way they can be sold in pretty much any store that carries them. Those supplements, they're just placebos. They don't do a damn thing. And I mean it. They literally don't do a damn thing. Just like on how 99% of water pills that are sold over the counter, 99% of them, they don't do a damn bit of thing. The one thing that's closest to that would be Diurex. That actually does do one thing. That's one of the small numbers that are out there that actually do work over the counter. But depending on your health issues, it may not work exactly as you think. However, to reduce the swelling, I can understand that. The main reason why it is tough in this country to even get health insurance is because so many private insurances, they would rather say, and forgive me for my English and language, but a lot of insurance companies, they'd rather say, fuck the customer if they have pre-existing conditions. They would pretty much have you get off the phone or walk right out of their establishment before they even consider laughing at you. I'm all for free markets and all and limited government regulation, But actively discriminating against someone due to their pre-existing conditions, that's an asshole move. And I mean, that's a flat up dick move. Seriously, we all have problems. You could be the healthiest person out there, and your insurance could drop you. And then 1 hour later, what happens? You can have a broken bone. You can develop respiratory issues due to a certain thing. You can even have a heart attack. And then when you try to get on health insurance, they're going to be like, oh, sorry, we cannot take you because we don't treat those with pre existing conditions. If you want to have health insurance, you got to go to the government. Which is why, in this case, as the last resort for many people getting on health insurance, especially low income, you pretty much got to go through like UCare if you're in Minnesota. But this year alone, 2026, UCare is shutting down operations in the entire state of Minnesota and essentially transferring it all to different health care insurance like organizations. Like one of them off the top of my head I can think of is actually Blue Cross Blue Shield. There's Humana and many others as well. It all depends on the type of insurance coverage that you do have and have had at the time. But yeah, all these weight loss drugs, they're pretty much going, if you were to like just buy them without insurance, you're looking at like the top dollar figure that you don't even need. Just like today, on a CVS commercial, $30 over the counter only by talking to the pharmacist directly, GLP-1s. And a GLP-1, I don't necessarily fully trust. And let me tell you why. A lot of the whole drugs that are GLP-1s, many people so far are having lawsuits with Ozempic and many others. Why are they having lawsuits? Side effects. What are the side effects? Bone loss, including tooth loss, and oddly enough, gum disease, just from it being injected anywhere in the body. Specifically, the stomach region is where they want you to do it. But yes, we do need to have patient protections, but at the same time, we should not be holding liability on companies where they just go by scot-free in case something happens to the patient. Just like hospitals and healthcare facilities, they don't even have any waivers for you to sign to even see if you're still allergic to something. They would rather have you go the entire rest of your life thinking that you're still allergic to something when they don't even want to treat it and potentially monitor it when you're in their presence. But for Pete's sake, when we look back at COVID times with the whole COVID shots, what did they do when we got those shots? And I ask you, what did they do? The healthcare facilities, the medical facilities, after we got the shot, what did they have us do? They had us sit in a waiting area for 15 to 40 minutes just to see how we would react. But yet, they don't have the same liability like protections. Like, for example, if you're allergic to pollen, and if you're allergic to Tylenol or aspirin or something like that, they just can't give you like a dose or two, have you wait in a certain area while they monitor you, just that way they could see whether or not if you're going to have a reaction to it. Oh no, they would rather pretty much go the whole bureaucratic route by doing not a damn thing, by literally doing jack. They would rather claim it's only due to liabilities. You're a healthcare facility. Every profession in this world has liabilities. Seriously. If someone genuinely wants to know if they're allergic to something, there's got to be tests done to even see if someone is still allergic to said something. It's unbelievable. So, with all these weight loss drugs, too, oh, they'll just say first, if they don't approve you, they'll say just proper diet and exercise. But the real question is, if any of y'all have seen these commercials, why are they only showing the skinny dicks? Why are they only showing people that are skinny as a frickin' rail? In all these commercials, I have seen not one person in the commercial that is morbidly obese, not even severely morbidly obese, along with a progression of them getting thinner and thinner. It's always people that don't even need it that are being advertised at the point where people are thinking, oh, I'm just 30 or 60 pounds overweight. Instead of just exercising alone, I need a drug just to be put in my body. And then that way, I can lose weight. Well, sorry, Mary Sunshine and John Flowers. That's not the world that we live in. If we actually want to lose weight, and I know I should be the one talking, but we should use exercise and proper diets, not entirely relying on the whole drugs that are out there, not the medications. We should be relying on science. We should not be relying on what we believe is the right path. There's a whole bunch of diets that are out there. Many of them I'm even questioning. For a long time, I always questioned why vegetarians were pretty much the way that they were. I questioned why people have to have restrictive diets. I questioned pretty much every diet known to mankind. The only diet that I'm still questioning, there's actually people out there that actually will go to the extremes of only eating potatoes and water. Only potatoes and water. Why? You can't live off of potatoes and water alone. Like you're going to be malnutritioned because you're not getting all the basic nutrients and whatever that a potato would lack. Just like if you are like overweight and stuff, then shouldn't pretty much eating pretty much a vegetarian diet actually work, especially if you're going to include some like lean meats like chicken, turkey, and some ground pork with a tiny bit of hamburger. Only reason why I'm saying a tiny bit of hamburger is if you actually notice, hamburger isn't really that healthy. It's like one of those 50-50 drawbacks. It's like, yes, it is healthy, but at the same time, it's not healthy. Oh, if it's freshly ground up from the source, then yes. However, it's also a processed type of food. But then again, what really is a processed food? Because pretty much everything, including bagged salads, is classified as processed. Just like all uh, the a lot of the meats that we buy in stores, for instance, like Tyson chicken, Purdue chicken breasts, and whatnot, that's processed meat. Just like it's also processed meat if we add in some ground chicken and many other ground meats. And the first thing I think of when it comes to processed foods, the thing that comes right to the top of my head is this: donuts, Oreos, chips, um, kind of mashed potatoes, if it's like that instant kind. But the biggest number one would actually have to be sliced deli meats. And non sliced deli meats, too. Like those logs of summer sausage, the logs of pepperoni, and so forth. Those things are so filled with sodium where an entire foot long length of log of whatever meat it is, it's going to have more sodium than one can of spam alone. And that's what the juice included too. Or the slime, whatever you want to call it. I really don't care. But the point of this being is healthcare companies and drug companies, they work hand in hand with each other. However, Big Pharma is lining the pockets of big corporations. Like I mentioned, I'm all for limited government involvement in a lot of things and little government regulation in this already overly regulated country that we live in, and same with the world. But there has to be a line somewhere in the frickin' sand. Just think about it. They're doing what's best for their pocketbooks and their shareholders. They're not doing what's best for actual us. But then again, collectively speaking, we have that freedom and they have that freedom too. Just like we have the freedom to buy their products, we also have the freedom to not buy their products. We have the freedom to say stuff about it, and we have the freedom not to say stuff about it. But during this whole thing, it's just the point where, why? Why would we rather keep funding the whole, keep funding the whole, the whole unhealthy movement? And speaking of the whole unhealthy movement, in terms of health and human safety, the one thing I'm still trying to find bizarre is, and I want you to stay with me on this one. Since Donald Trump was elected to office, how much more formulas for babies, how much more produce that we all consume, how much of it has been recalled due to salmonella, having metals, glass, cardboard, etc. in it? A lot of it. One of the salads I actually liked would have been by Taylor Farms. And now I'm questioning just exactly and where I'm standing with this. Because there's things that we have been told ourselves that is actually sounding and making sense, but we've also been told some nonsense too. We're told to either accept a lie for a truth or to accept a truth for a lie. We pretty much need a whole great explanation. There are some dietitians and doctors that will tell you the whole truth, and then there are some doctors and dietitians that will not tell you the whole truth. There are doctors out there that will scare a patient to oblivion because they know exactly where the patient's going, but with the whole scaredness of said patient, it could basically go to where they don't ever want to visit a medical facility ever again. The point where they're over exercising their authority as a authority figure. The point where they themselves are just letting their ego get the best of them. Just like with healthcare and drugs. They go together, but not always for the good. Oh, there are drug companies out there that actually do good. And that's specifically if it's treating mental health disorders and illnesses. But yet, when it comes to diabetes and weight loss drugs, what hasn't worked in, I'm just going to throw out a year. What hasn't worked in like 700 years that people have gone by just fine without? But now we're being shown drugs that we don't really need, that we have to think that we need, but in reality we don't need. Just like example, oh, the Ozempic commercials. One shot alone is like a few $100, but to get like more, like six or more, that's easily over $1,000 right there. Is it a great way? Yes. Is it also a dumb way? Yes, also. Because there's always a good and a bad to everything. When it comes to these drug commercials, we really don't want to see them, yes. But at the expense of government overregulation, not really worth having the government overregulation and banning these commercials, because it's what the market is deciding. And what does the market decide? Well, we should ask ourselves on what we want, and we should also pay attention to the spending habits of others, too, regardless if we control their finances or not. Just like when it comes to vehicles on the road, I'm seeing more Chevys than I am for seeing Fords. When it comes to gaming consoles that I'm seeing all over social media, I'm seeing way more users going to PC gaming from PlayStation and Xbox. But when it comes to the whole game consoles specifically, many of them are switching back to Xbox. All because Xbox, in this case, they're following the market decision by still making discs, while PlayStation basically shot themselves in the foot. Just like, just like the one saying that somebody told me years ago, but I can't remember who told me. But is still true to this day. Just because something is free and available doesn't mean we need it. Just because something's on sale doesn't mean we need it. Well, yes, we may want it, but we don't need it. Just like, in a way, I want to experience those GLP-1s, but I don't need it. At the same time, I don't want to experience bone loss. I don't want to experience any of the other side effects that are with it. I really don't. I'm already riddled with problems. I don't need to add more to the fire. And I'm sure many of y'all have problems too. But the one thing that we can essentially agree on, pretty much in a stance, is that big pharma and medical settings, there's a main reason why cannabis is only legal on state levels, because they basically fund the federal government. They basically fund our senators, our congresspersons, whatever it is, just so that way they can keep cannabis illegal nationally, and other than racist reasons too. Because if we were to just stop buying prescription drugs, if we are to stop buying over the counter drugs, what's going to happen to the healthcare industry and the drug industry? Oh, the market on that would crash completely if we all stood together and refused to take prescription drugs and refused to take any drugs from the corporations. There are good corporations and there are corrupt bad corporations. But sometimes these corporations, they have a mixture of good and bad people on their boards. Same with the shareholders. Do I support what Luigi did to the United Health Group CEO? No. But do I also support what the CEO did? No. Well, yes, but no. The ability to run a company, yes, but not the ability to run a company poorly. The point where the insurance company would rather save their asses instead of saving the patients. Did you know for a 2 day stay in the hospital, so if they run MRIs, x rays, while at the same time feeding you, did you know it costs the insurance industry $20,000 at minimum? That's what I discovered when I had my accident 7 years ago. Wonder how much it costs for one of those life flights, depending on where you are? Oh Lord, you are looking at almost not four, but $40,000. It's cheaper to go by ambulance because it's worth at most maybe 1,000, but at minimum $300. But it's more cheaper if you were to drive yourself or have other people drive you. But with the whole drug industry and healthcare, depending on where you go and who you talk to within that system, they're either going to help you or they're going to screw you. And I don't mean screw as in attempting to get laid. I mean screw as in they're not going to help you at all. They're just going to say, should not have came in. Thank you for coming. Now pay your bill. I'm also referring also to these dental offices too, because they're also involved. Because with these weight loss drugs, they're also being prescribed not only by healthcare doctors, but if you're losing teeth, who else is making money to look at your mouth? The dental industry. The dental industry. Both can actually determine if you've got cancer in the mouth. Both can determine if you are losing bone in your mouth. Both can diagnose diseases in the mouth. But what can't the hospital do? Tooth removal. What can surgeons do? Tooth removal and jaw removal, along with gum removal. And I know I've gone on for a little over half an hour, but let me close with this. Just because you see something's on TV that looks like people are having a great time with, does not mean you need it. Just because someone's using it to better their life, does not automatically need to have the interpretation of you need it. No, you do not need it. For our own individuals, we need to express research on what we do think we need versus what the drug industry is telling us what we need. Just like you may be allergic to something that's in these GLP-1s. You could have like a negative reaction. What also is included though is how much it'll cost. Well, yes, I would rather save the money, the best of my ability, and pay doctors to actually take out fat from me. And I mean a lot of fat from me. However, the industry, money talks, bullshit walks in the healthcare industry. If you're just using your insurance to pay for this, and if insurance even is necessary, they're only going to pay for like a little bit of it. The healthcare industry, they're only going to pay the insurance and only do as much surgery and claim liability for as much as it's worth. Like right now, they would just tell me, sorry, no. When in reality, money talks, bullshit walks. Meaning you flash the right amount of cash to them, and they will take out as much weight as you need. And I'm not trying to spread misinformation here. I've did a whole bunch of research on liposuction and liposuction related surgeries, including the gastric bypass, which essentially is where they shrink the stomach, use like a rubber band or something like that, and then basically whatever you'd consume, you could only have like maybe at most half of what you used to consume, but realistically, only having the ability to consume only a quarter of what you'd eat. Think of it like having the ability to chug down half of a 2 liter bottle of soda, which essentially is just a liter. But take away that ability, and you essentially just get maybe a 20 ounce or a 16-ounce bottle of soda, and that's it. I don't know what 25% of a 2 liter is, but I do know it's not much. It legitimately isn't much. Just like another reason why the healthcare industry and weight loss drugs, why they also charge the amount that they do, is because most of these things are done overseas to save money, while at the same time they're overcharging the system. So that way both themselves and the doctors make some money. Which is why when doctors ask you how much you drink, majority of the time patients will lie, but they are trained to know if you're lying or not. But they won't even question you a double take on it because yeah. But yeah, pretty much going to be cutting off this live stream. I initially was going to talk about how the whole video game industry is depressing, but this one over the weekend actually has brought up to my mind a whole bunch of great points and whatnot because I got tired of seeing these commercials. Yes, we're tired of seeing them, but they do have a right to be on the airwaves, especially advertisements on our devices. But yeah, the next podcast episode, it will be on Friday. I don't know of a set time, but more than likely it's going to be before 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and yeah, you have a great day now.